So we have both of our boxes unpackaged here and everything laid out around the corners. We're going to go through the manual here, and if you are installing the optional hutch, we've already installed that. We put that together and have it out there ready to come in later, but now we have plenty of room to work with. So starting in the manual here, it shows you all the different parts, and we'll just go through this as we go through the video. And it's going to tell you right here to stop and assemble the hutch first if you do have it, and we've already done that part, so we're going to go ahead and get started. You do have to decide now if you want the drawers on the left and the cabinet on the right, or the cabinet on the left and the drawers on the right. So just make sure that you have that figured out before. We're going to go ahead and do this one with the drawers on the left, and so we'll get started. So I've taken all the hardware bags here. I've just dripped a hole in the top of each of the little pouches, and you can just leave it in the bag this way. It makes it nice so you can just move it around, and then you have access to all the hardware you need. Now the pouches do have the part numbers on here. We're taking the 8S screws right here, and then out of this pouch we're taking these hidden 9F hidden connectors, and we're going to go ahead and assemble these two pieces, a screw for each one of these. So this is what they look like assembled. Basically you're just taking the screw and dropping it down through that way. So now we're grabbing these two boards, which are Q2. These ones were labeled. Sometimes they're not labeled, and you can sometimes find a letter written on the side in black. But these ones were labeled. But we're taking these connectors and we're placing them on this way with the screw coming out the front. And you actually have to take a hammer and pound these in here. It's kind of hard to get them down in there. A little nerve-wracking using a hammer, but that's the way that it's designed to go. So go ahead and line these up and whack them with a hammer. Okay, so all four of those are now in place. Next, you're going to lay out panels A, B, C, D, E, F, and JL. And what we're doing now is inputting these hidden cams, is what they call it, and then the cam bolt. These are part 1F and these are part 2F, are the part numbers. And so what you want to look for is a small hole that's coming out of the side, and then the bigger hole here. So what you want to do is you want to take the opening of the hole, as you can see right there, and you want that opening facing the smaller hole here. Next, you'll take the cam bolt and you're taking the metal piece and you're feeding it in here, and that way it goes into that hidden cam. Later on, as we tighten this cam here, it's going to spread that out, and that's how it's going to connect everything. So I've already gone through and put all of these in here, as you can see. But that's all that you're doing on this step, is putting the hidden cam and the cam bolt that's coming out of it onto each of these. So now this is our C panel and our D panel. We've come and we've taken our bracket here, and it says 35DA for this panel on the right, which is our C panel. And we've attached it with the gold screws that it comes with, the little tiny ones. And so you have the wheel on that side, and then this is basically just the reverse thing here. So this is our D panel here, and it has 35DB, which is a different bracket. And so we've installed those two right there on the second set of holes down. Okay, as for the other rails that are in here, I was having a harder time matching up any part numbers. So what you want to look for is where it says cabinet left. Make sure that it says cabinet left on all of these. And so these ended up being the 35 dBs, and the this one just said cabinet left on it, and it was the longer one. So you just want to make sure that these longer ones are on the bottom on each side, and then the right side, this one would say cabinet right on both of these, and it's the 35 DA on both of those. And these are the small screws we're using, so go ahead and attach all of these. Just make sure that the wheels are on the far outside edges, and if you're following the left and right, you should be fine. So now we're going back to our Q2 panels that we installed earlier, that we were working on those smaller areas there. And we're going to be taking these little 9/16 inch screws that are flat on the top, have kind of the rim around them. And we're going to be going after these 2G brackets. And we're just going to line them up. You can see where there's a pre-drilled hole there. And we're going to go ahead and screw all 4 of these down. So next we took our 40AX for this left side, and we attached it with these little gold screws. And we're going into the lower holes. As you see, there's holes that are on the bottom and then some that are on the top. So we're going to the very bottom set of holes on these. And so this left one, it says left 40AX, and now on the right it's going to say 40AW, and it'll say right, and then it shows front with an arrow going that way where the wheels will be. So like I said, there's 2 sets of holes. We're going for the bottom one, and we're just going to line it up on the front and the back there, and put in these little gold screws. So now we're taking panel E, here's the finished edge, and it has the cam bolt up top. And then we're taking our F panel, also with the cam bolt up top, and you want to make sure its finished edge is here on the side too. And we're going to take these bigger screws, they're 1 7/8 inch long, big screws, and we're just going to go on the side here, and we're going to screw them both in to get these panels attached together. So you do want to square off this corner the best that you can, maybe even put it on a flat surface to do so, and run those screws in. Okay, so I have both of these screws started. They went through the pre-drilled hole here, and they went in right here where on this board you could see a little tiny dot pre-drilled hole for it to go into. So once I have these both started, they're going, I've turned them a few times. Now you can flatten the whole board together like this so that it's tighter, and that'll have the screws stick out a little more. Now you can tighten this down. So you want to make sure not to pinch the carpet, and you want to make sure that this is nice and squared off as you tighten those 2 screws down. Okay, so that's tightened down. What I actually did is I just kind of stood it up on its end there and drilled those straight down into there, and it's nice and square over here. Now we're taking our L panel here. It has the cam and cam bolt in there. We're going to now take these little metal pins. We're going to put one down here, and so we're going to be doing this on both of these panels. So this one here is our D panel, that one was our C panel. And so we're finding these holes here. You'll see one's bigger than the other. And so the bigger one is going to take our cam bolt, and we're going to actually do this with the cam bolt facing downward. But the cam bolt will go in that one, and then our metal one will go into that one. So we're going to go ahead and put that in there. And then you can take your screwdriver and tighten this cam bolt. That's going to lock it into place. You want to do that with this pretty well straight up, so I'll do that when I have 2 hands available. And then the other end of this is basically just going to go into these other 2 holes from the other cabinet. When you're done, you'll have the little wheels facing forward on both sides, and these 2 will be together. So we're going to do that with both of our F panels. One here and then the other one just on the other side, so they're going to be right next to each other. So, for example, we'll move forward now with our other panel here. It's our other F panel. We're going to do the same thing. So we got our dowel and our cam on there. So that's what you should be left with. Go ahead and tighten that one. And then these two, we're just going to bring this one up and over on top and tighten them down. So we'll also need our metal dowel pins up top. And so we'll tighten that all down. Okay, so we've turned this one on its side. Now we're just going to lift this panel here, which was our C panel, and just line the holes back up and tighten them down too. Now we're taking our 5G corner pieces here with those little tiny 9/16 inch screws with the flat top on them, and we've just gone and screwed them in here on the bottom part only, just to mount all these. So as you can see, it has pre-drilled holes for them, and so basically I'm just running the screw here inside there, getting it pretty well tightened. Once it's tightened, I'm just holding this kind of up in its perfect spot to have it squared off, and then tightening that screw all the way down. Okay, all four of these are now down, and they have that screw just holding them in on the bottom, and we just made sure that they were all flush on the very tops here. Okay, next we're taking our panel that's marked X. It's this nice kind of a U-shaped type piece. We're going to set this right down on top, and you can see the pre-drilled holes here. We're just going to put those screws through here to tighten this piece down on here. And once again, we're just using those little 9/16 black screws with the flat top. So to make it a little bit easier, I just flipped this upside down so I could get to these screws a little bit better. And I did also have to loosen up this cam bolt in order for it to all tighten down properly. So now I'm going to go ahead and tighten that back. That'll bring up that gap there. But anyway, this is all squared off pretty well now, and we're attached on the back side. So now here's our A panel, here's our J panel, and here's our B panel. So basically what we're doing is on the J panel, it has dowels on each side. So we're just standing up our A and our B panels in order to be lined up and to go into these, just like so. Then we're just tightening down those cam bolts. So just make sure that you have this the proper way with all the screw holes on the insides of the A and the B panels. So we'll go ahead and tighten all these down now. Now we're kind of duplicating what we did on this side. I'm going to take our X panel here. We're going to set it on the top here, and we're going to attach it doing the same thing with these L brackets. So like I did on the other side, I've just flipped this onto its face so that it's easier to access these. And I loosened up the cam bolts on each side just so that I can move it around a little bit more. And as you see, they line up pretty well, so just square it off here on the corners and square it off on the sides here, and tighten all these down using those other 4 screws. So next I took the K paneling, which is just the little back paneling, and then all the tiny little tacks, and everywhere there was a perforated little hole there on the sides. I went ahead and pounded them in. Obviously there's a few more here where there's nothing behind them, so don't do those ones yet. But just put the backs on both of these. Okay, so this is the important part where you need to decide if you want the drawers on the left or the cabinet on the left. I want the drawers on the left, so now we've put down our big panel here, G2, and it has that circular hole in the side over there. So our E and F panel, we went ahead and set down in there and tightened those cam bolts. So those cam bolts just went right into those holes. We have the rounded edge up front, and now this is our C and D side because it has the drawers, and we went ahead and just laid it down in there into those holes and tightened the 4 cam bolts that were on the inside of this one too. That was our next step there. Next, we're going to take our BB panel right here, little trim piece. You'll see it has kind of the rounded edge here. It's flat on the back. And we're going to line it up with the pre-drilled holes, all 3 of these, and go ahead and tighten those down. So next we're taking panel I, and we're lining it up here on the bottom. You want to have the curved part of it right there. And we're just taking 2 screws. And they go in here to pre-drilled holes in the back of this panel. Next we're using our 1 7/8 inch screw here, and we're going through the side. It does recommend you use a drill bit if you want to pre-drill through there, because on this side it doesn't go all the way through, but if you're using a power drill like I am, you can see you can pretty much just go right through it, then back it off a little bit, line the panel up, and just drill right into it. And we're going to do that at the top and the bottom using those 2 holes. Now we're going to install these clips that hold wires if you have computer wires that you want to string up. One just goes into this hole here, you just push it straight down. And then one that I've already installed right here. Now we're going to take a 90-degree bracket. You can see the 2 holes for this one. And we're going to go ahead and put these 2 screws in here. These are our very common flat-topped screws there, so we're going to go ahead and install both of those. Okay, so we're just using these 9/16 flat top screws and putting these brackets here on the corners. They're going into the pre-drilled holes there. That's going to connect our L section of the desk. Okay, so I flipped this over now that we're pretty much done with this section, and we're going to continue to build the other L section that comes out this way. So here's our H2 board here. It has the rounded front surface here. And we went ahead and put our last remaining piece here, which was our B section. And we just set it down in here, and we're tightening all 4 of these cam bolts. So we just lined it up to where there were 4 of these holes. And we're ready just to tighten that up. Okay, so now we're putting our I board up here. And it has the arched section right there, and coming in from this side there's 2 holes already in our B board that we're putting these in, and you can drill a 1/8 inch hole through here if you want, because it's not already pre-drilled on this board, or you can just drill these in carefully, but be careful not to split the wood. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just going to go into those 2 holes, that far end over here, and just put these in to screw down that piece. Okay, so as you can see, the screws are coming through there, and they're just coming from inside here, and we're straightening this out and then just drilling those screws all the way into that piece. Okay, so inside here you are going to want to drill a 1/8 inch hole. You're just going through where the screw would normally go in, but you're drilling it into this board here, and as you can see, this split open a little bit because I didn't drill the hole. I just tried it with just the screw. So you will want to do that. Just drill a hole straight in there. It helps as a pilot hole, and then the screw will have a better path to follow. Next, we're coming in with another one of these plastic L brackets and lining it up here. You can see the little hole where it belongs here and here. So we're just going to line those up and attach these with these flat-headed screws. Now we're taking our 9S screws and attaching this piece, which is AA, and it has that rounded edge on the front, flat on the back. And so this lines up here in 3 different places. And so I'm just finishing up with this third screw right here. And over here we have another wire clip that we're just pushing down in here. It just pops down into place, and I can hold wires if you are running any of them through here. Okay, so I flipped this piece over and lined it up over here. And so if you come underneath here, now you'll see the last 2 screws on each side that we need to do for these 2 brackets. So we're just using those little screws with the flat top. And then right here, we're also running our last 2 screws that we have that are this size. They're kind of the middle length ones for the long ones. And we're gonna go ahead and put those there into those 2 holes. And so just to clarify, it's gonna be the 1 1/8 inch black screws, the 9S, and then the 9/16 small, large head screw, those smaller ones here. Next, we're taking our 11S screws. These are just the little ones that don't have too much of a rim on the top. And we're just placing the hinge piece down in there like this. We're going to screw these in here. Then just lift the door up and tighten it down into up in here. Now we're just taking our 50S gold screw here. It comes out the other side, and we're just putting our knob on the other side of this and just screwing it on. So now we took our panel U. This is going to be the keyboard drawer, and we took the finished edge here, make sure that that was right. Then on this side we had our 40AZ, and we just put the gold or the brown colored screws. There were 2 of them in there in pre-drilled holes, and those are the 18S is the part number. And then on the opposite side here, it was the 40AY, and same thing, the other 2 of those brown screws that came with it into their pre-drilled holes. So now we have our keyboard. Now we took our Q2 board, and if you remember, this is one of the first pieces we assembled, and we came in here with our screwdriver that comes in at an angle, and we tightened it up into the pre-drilled holes there. And now we're just going to get some more of these flat top screws to tighten here on these L brackets. Okay, and then I just attached this one on the right hand side, same way. Just got those lined up into their pre-drilled holes, and then finished up with a few of the screws at the very top on that L bracket on each side. Now we can just take our keyboard piece here, we just rolled the wheels up first. There we go. Now it rolls right in. Now we have a functional keyboard. Now I didn't see any labeling on these pieces other than this one does say N, but you have to find these ones, which are technically the D29 and D28, and so just pay attention that you have a slit at the bottom, and then a slit towards the front. So what you're going to need to do with these is tilt them at just the right angle. So you'll have to tilt these at just the right angle to get them down into this groove. And you can tell it's right when you straighten it out and it's flush, and then this line matches up with this line. So you can do that with both sides of these. Next, you want your D707 panel, which is the bottom paneling. These aren't labeled, but as you notice, two of them are a lot smaller than this bigger one, so that's the one you want. So we're going to go ahead and slide this panel in. Okay, next we're going to go after this final panel here on the back, which also was not labeled, but it's the D78 panel by name. You want the slot going on the bottom here, and we're just going to put it in between here, and as you notice, it has two screw holes. So we're going to be going through the sides of this to screw it together. And for that, we're using these 1 9/16 inch S30 screws. Okay, so those screws are now going into the side. Next, you're going to take this piece 10A, it's a little cam deal, and we're going to put it down in the side of this drawer right here. We've turned the drawer onto its side, and we're getting our bracket here that says drawer left. And just a hint, this is going to be the longest one. You know that by looking inside here and seeing that the longest one was on the bottom and the two shorter ones were on the top. So we're going to go ahead and line up this hole over this little cross here. And then you're going to use these two gold bolts or screws. Put the first one in here. And what you'll notice is as you tighten it down, in order to make that one line up, you'll turn this with a screwdriver and it will pivot. So for example, we have our first screw in, and now as we turn this screw with a screwdriver, you can see that we can turn it to the right or turn it to the left and make it line up with that hole. So once again, this one can't be too tight, but just put that one in place, then turn this until this other hole lines up, then put in your last gold screw for this side, and then tighten that one back down. Next, you just take these black pieces here and slide them down over the tabs and run the metal rods. Instructions show going through the first hole and then the third from the last hole. And so you'll do the same thing on this other side, and they just slide back down on top here. Next, you attach the handle by just putting it up into the two pre-drilled holes, and then in the back side, coming from the back, you'll just put in the two 5/8 inch silver screws and then just tighten them down. Next, you're just going to lift the wheels onto the tray so that they're going over the other wheels. So in it slides. Then the instructions simply say to repeat that same step for the rest of the drawers. So then you'll just want to slide those other two drawers in. And just remember to do that. You put the wheels on top that are on the shelf, roll them over the top of the wheels that are already there. Then you'll come over to this corner, and this is a two-piece kit here. So you just slide the rim down into here, and then you take the cap and just place that on top there. And that's where you can have wires go down under the desk. So next, on the side that has the cabinet, you're going to want to put 4 of these dowel pins in and just make sure they're the same on each side. Then you'll take piece P with the finished edge up front. You'll have to put it at an angle to get it in here, but then you'll just set one side down on the dowels on this side. And then set it down on the other dowels, so that way it's being held up in 4 different places. There are these silicone type caps also that you can put overneath these dowel pins just to make it a little softer on them. Then of course you'll want to go through and take off all the stickers everywhere you can find them. So that completes the desk portion. We're going to be adding the hutch now as well, but if you were just doing the desk, then you're done here. If you're planning to add the hutch or add the hutch later, then please see the other video.